I bought my first house at 29, a Victorian fixer-upper in Portland that I got for a steal. The inspector said it was structurally sound, just cosmetically dated. I didn't mind the peeling wallpaper or the creaky floors. What I minded was the staircase. Here's the thing, the house is a single-story bungalow. I noticed it on my third night there. I'd been sleeping on an air mattress in the living room, surrounded by boxes. Around 2 a.m., I woke up needing water. The house was dark except for the streetlight filtering through the curtains. That's when I saw it, a staircase leading up from my hallway, right where the wall should be. I sat there frozen, staring at these stairs that absolutely shouldn't exist. They were old, the wood dark and worn, ascending into a darkness that felt wrong, heavy. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. After maybe 5 minutes, I convinced myself I was still half asleep. I closed my eyes, counted to 10, and looked again. Just a wall. Floral wallpaper from the 1970s, no staircase. I checked the architectural plans the next day. Single story, no attic access. No second floor ever existed, but the staircase kept appearing. Always between 2 and 3 a.m., always the same spot. I started documenting it, setting up my phone to record. The footage showed nothing, just a wall. But when I was there, physically present and awake, I could see every detail. The worn groove in the center of each step. The banister with its chipped paint. The darkness at the top that seemed to absorb light rather than simply being its absence. I tried to ignore it. I really did. But curiosity is a persistent thing, especially when it's in your own home. On the 9th night, I decided to climb it. The stairs were solid under my feet, real. Each step creaked in a specific way, and I could feel the slight give in the wood. My hand on the banister felt splinters I'd later find no evidence of. As I climbed, the temperature dropped. My breath came out in clouds. There were 13 steps. I know because I counted each one, my voice whispering numbers like a prayer. At the top was a hallway. Impossible, but there. The same floral wallpaper as downstairs, but older, more faded. There were 3 doors. The air smelled like dust and something else, something sweet and rotten, like flowers left too long in a vase. The first door was locked. The second opened into what looked like a child's bedroom, perfectly preserved from maybe the 1950s, a bed with a faded quilt, toys on shelves, a rocking horse facing the window. The third door was at the end of the hall, and light seeped from underneath it. Not electric light, something warmer, flickering. Candlelight, maybe? I almost opened it. My hand was on the knob, turning it, when I heard something, humming, a woman's voice, tuneless and wrong, like someone who'd forgotten how music worked. The sound came from behind that door, and with it, the overwhelming certainty that I was not supposed to be there. I ran. I've never moved faster in my life. Taking those stairs 3 at a time, feeling the wood splinter and crack under my panic. I burst into my hallway and spun around. Just a wall. I sold the house 6 weeks later, taking a significant loss. I told the buyers about the electrical issues and old plumbing, but nothing else. What would I even say? The staircase still appears in my dreams sometimes. In them, I always open that third door. I always see what's on the other side. But when I wake up, I can never remember just the feeling it left me with. Last month, I drove past my old house. There was a for sale sign in the yard. The new owners lasted 4 months. The thing is, I've been doing research. The property records show something interesting. The house was originally built as a 2-story in 1904 in 1957. The entire second floor was demolished after a fire that killed a woman and her daughter. But here's what keeps me up at night. The demolition records specify that they removed the second floor and sealed the staircase. They sealed it, which means they didn't remove it. They just closed it off, hid it behind walls, and went on like it never existed. I think about that staircase still being there, trapped behind layers of wood and plaster, still existing in whatever space it occupies between 2 and 3 still waiting for someone curious enough or stupid enough to climb to the top. And I think about that third door, and what hums behind it in the candlelight, and whether it noticed me, whether it's still waiting for me to come back and finish what I started. I live in an apartment now, 10th floor. Sometimes I still wake up at 2 a.m. and check my hallway, just to be sure. I worked as a file clerk at the county records office for 8 months. It was a night shift position, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and the pay was decent for essentially babysitting rows of filing cabinets in a basement. My job was simple: process requests that came through the online system, pull the corresponding files, scan them, and upload them to the database. The building was built in 1887, originally a courthouse. The basement where I worked had been converted to record storage in the 1960s. Fluorescent lights, concrete floors, row after row of metal shelving units stretching back into the dimness. I was alone down there every night. For the first month, it was fine. Boring, but fine. I'd bring headphones, listen to podcasts, and work through the requests. The building settled and creaked like old buildings do. I got used to it. Then I found the box. It was misfiled, shoved behind some property deeds from 1923, a cardboard banker's box, the old kind with a handwritten label that just said, "Personnel destroyed 1979, but clearly it hadn't been destroyed. I opened it during a slow night, mostly out of boredom. Inside were employment records for the courthouse. Old ones, from the 1890s through the 1940s, handwritten ledgers, employee photographs, disciplinary reports. I flipped through them, mildly interested in the antique formality of it all. That's when I noticed the photographs. There were maybe 30 of them, portrait-style employee photos from various decades. Different clothes, different hairstyles, but 5 of them showed the same man. Not men who looked similar, the same man. Same face, same eyes, same slight smile. The photos spanned from 1891 to 1943. I checked the names. Different every time. John Hendricks, 1891. Thomas Whitmore, 1907. Daniel Carver, 1928. Robert Mills, 1943. I told myself it was a coincidence. Family resemblance. Maybe they were related and the similarity was just strong genetics. But the face was identical. Not similar, identical, same mole above the left eyebrow. Same small scar on the chin. I put the box back and tried to forget about it. The next night I heard footsteps. They came from the back of the records room, beyond where the lights reached. Steady, measured footsteps on concrete. I called out, thinking maybe another employee was down there, though I'd never seen anyone during my shifts. The footsteps stopped. I went back to work, but my skin was crawling. Half an hour later, they started again. Closer this time. I could track them moving between the shelving units, getting nearer to my desk. When they stopped, they were maybe 20 feet away, just beyond the edge of the light. I grabbed my phone and used the flashlight. Empty aisles, concrete floor, nothing. This happened every night for a week. Always the footsteps. Always stopping just outside the light. I started turning on every light in the basement, flooding the whole space with harsh fluorescent brightness. It didn't matter. The footsteps continued in the spaces between the shelving units, where shadows collected despite the lights. Then I started seeing him. Just glimpses at first. A figure at the end of an aisle when I glanced up. The suggestion of a man in a dark suit, there and gone. I'd walk to where I saw him and find nothing, but I'd feel watched. That prickling sensation of eyes on the back of your neck? I pulled the box again and really studied those photographs. In each one, the man was wearing a name badge. I got a magnifying glass and looked closer. The badges were different styles from different eras, but each one had the same thing printed below the name: Records Department, the current night records clerk. In every era, the same face. I searched for obituaries, death records, anything. John Hendricks died in 1907, fell down the courthouse stairs. Thomas Whitmore died in 1928, found dead at his desk in the records room. Heart attack. Daniel Carver died in 1943 accidental death, crushed by falling shelving units in the basement. They all died in or near the records department, and a new hire with that same face always replaced them within a month. The last photo was Robert Mills, 1943. There were no records of his death. He simply stopped appearing in the employment ledgers after. 1944, no termination, no retirement. He just wasn't there anymore. I started checking the employee database. I needed to know who held this position before me. The records were incomplete, but I found fragments. The last night clerk before me was hired in 2019. He quit after 3 months. Before him, someone lasted 6 weeks in 2018. Before that, the position sat empty for a year. I tried to find photos of them. Social media, anything. I found one a LinkedIn profile for the 2019 hire. His profile picture made my blood go cold. Different name. Different person, supposedly. But the face. That same face. That same slight smile. Last week, I walked into the records room and found a new box on my desk. I didn't put it there. Inside was a photograph in a frame. A man in modern clothes wearing a records department badge. The name on the badge was mine. But the face in the photograph wasn't my face. It was his. The same face from 1891, 1907, 1928, 1943. The same face that I've started seeing in mirrors when I'm alone in the basement. Standing behind me, wearing my face like he's worn all the others. I gave my 2 weeks notice yesterday. They've already posted the job listing. Night shift, county records. Decent pay. They'll find someone. They always do. I just hope whoever takes it is smarter than I was. Smarter than all of us were. Because I think I understand now. The position doesn't get filled. The position fills you. I drive for a rideshare company in Chicago. 3 years now, mostly night shifts because the surge pricing makes it worth dealing with drunk people and weird hours. You see strange things driving nights in a big city, but most of it is explainable. People are drunk, high, emotional, or some combination thereof. What happened last month wasn't explainable. I picked up a fare at 2:47 a.m. outside a closed grocery store in Pilsen. The app showed 2 passengers. A couple, I figured. I pulled up to the address and saw them standing under the street light. A man in a brown jacket and a woman in a blue dress. They got in the back without a word, and I started driving to their destination in Lincoln Park. I tried the usual driver small talk. Nice night. How's your evening going? They didn't respond. Not unusual, plenty of passengers prefer silence. I checked them in the rearview mirror. They were sitting stiffly, not touching, staring straight ahead. The woman's dress looked vintage. The man's jacket was worn. Both were pale, but the lighting was bad. The ride was 25 minutes. Not once did they speak, move, or even seem to breathe. When I pulled up to their destination, a residential building on a quiet street, I sighed. Here we are. No response. I turned around. The back seat was empty. The doors hadn't opened. I would have heard it, felt the rush of cold air. But they were gone. I checked the door lock, still engaged. I got out and checked the street. Nothing. No one. I told myself they'd slipped out at a red light, though I knew that wasn't possible. I would have noticed. The app charged them for the full ride. I gave it 5 stars and tried to forget about it. 3 nights later, I got another ping at the same location. Same time, almost to the minute. 2:47 a.m., same grocery store. And there they were. Same man, same woman. Same clothes. Same street light. Every reasonable part of my brain screamed at me to cancel the ride. But I'm not a reasonable person when I'm curious. I accepted. They got in. Same silence. Same stiff posture. I drove them to the same address in Lincoln Park. This time I watched the mirror more carefully. They never blinked. Never shifted position. The woman's hands were folded in her lap, and her skin had an odd waxy quality. The man stared forward with dark eyes that didn't reflect the passing streetlights. "You folks make this trip often?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Nothing, not even an acknowledgement that I'd spoken. When we arrived, I kept my eyes on them in the mirror. "We're here," I said. They were still there. Then I blinked and they weren't. Same empty back seat. Same locked doors. I pulled up the ride history. Both trips showed the same passenger account. The name was listed as T. Morrison, no profile picture. Account created in 2003 before the app even existed. I started researching the grocery store location, the destination address. I spent hours going through old news articles and city records. Finally, I found it. In 1952, a couple died in a car accident at the intersection, where that grocery store now stands. They were heading home from a party. A truck ran a red light and hit them broadside. Thomas and Elizabeth Morrison. He was 34, she was 31. Their home address in 1952? The same Lincoln Park building I'd been driving them to. I should have stopped accepting rides from that location. But the fares kept coming. Same time, same passengers. Sometimes once a week, sometimes 3 nights in a row. Always silent. Always disappearing. Last week, something changed. I picked them up as usual. But this time, when I looked in the mirror, the woman was looking back at me. Actually looking at me, her eyes meeting mine in the reflection. Her mouth opened slowly, and I heard her voice for the first time. It sounded like it was coming from very far away or through water. "He's waiting," she said. "Who's waiting?" I asked, my hands tight on the wheel. "The driver," she said. Then both of them turned to look at the passenger seat next to me. It was empty, but I felt a weight there. A presence. The seatbelt was fastened across empty air, and when I passed under streetlights, I could see the faint impression of someone sitting there. A depression in the seat. A shadow that didn't match anything in the car. I drove the rest of the route in silence, my heart hammering. When we reached the Lincoln Park address, I looked in the mirror. The back seat was empty. But the passenger seat next to me, the depression was still there. The fastened seatbelt. The shadow. "End of the line," said a voice next to me. A man's voice, rough and tired. "My turn to drive?" I looked to my right. For just a second, I saw him. An older man, maybe 60s, wearing a rideshare company shirt from years ago. His face was gray. His eyes were hollow. Then he was gone. I found out later that a driver for our company died in 2019, heart attack behind the wheel at a red light. Not far from that grocery store. His last passenger pickup was at 2:47 a.m. He died before he could complete the trip. I don't drive nights anymore. I switched to day shifts, and I've never gotten a ping from that grocery store again. But sometimes when I'm driving in the early morning hours before sunrise, I feel that weight in the passenger seat. I see that depression in the cushion. And I hear that voice, quiet and insistent. "My turn to drive? I'm looking for a new job. Maybe something in an office. Something where I'm not alone in a car at 2:47 a.m., wondering if the next time I look to my right, I'll see him sitting there, waiting. Wondering if one night I won't be able to refuse."